Okay, we're going to cover now some of the miscellaneous tools options that we haven't covered yet. So if we go down to query results and SQL Server, as you can see, you can actually specify the folder that you want your results updating to. You can even play a beep when the query batch window completes. So if you're near your machine, you don't even need to look, as long as you've got speakers, etc. Results to grid. A couple of options I usually set include the query in the result set, include column headers when copying or saving data. One that is quite useful when you're testing and also for annoying people. If you actually specify discard results after execution, as soon as the query completes, it actually gets rid of the results. Okay, I'll just show you that. For example, just using AdventureWorks, select star from person dot, let's see, person, shall we? Yeah, okay, so if we F5 that, I didn't do jack diddly. Okay, so if we control C it, new query, and then F5 it, it's just disappeared. That is actually useful for optimizing when you're running queries and things like that, because the actual cost of bringing the data back is one of the pitfalls when running queries, and also it could wind people up, so I don't suggest you do that. Okay, so go to tools and options again and discard that. If you noticed in our window here, it's actually showing the query that I ran. I'd always recommend you actually add that in, because just say you're running a query and there's 5 queries in the window and you want to run each one after the other one completes. This is really useful to know which query's just been completed. There is other ways of achieving that. Okay, so just close that. Again, always make sure you create a new window, because sometimes they don't actually start until you actually start running. So tools, options, and so we've covered that off. Text to grid as well is very similar. One of the things to be careful of is actually the display characters in there. I've seen it before where values get truncated because the size isn't long enough. A couple of other things you can do. You can display the results in a separate tab. That's obviously personal preference. And status messages again in a separate tab. Multi-server results is basically on registered servers, which we'll cover off at another point. Okay. So Object Explorer details. These are the sets of values where you can see it returns the top 1,000 records, so you can amend that and it will return the top 20, top 50, etc. Sometimes on some servers with large wide tables, returning 1,000 rows could be not advisable. And also the editing set at 200, but again you can amend those. Couple in the scripting things that are actually worth noting. Script for version, so you can actually script based on the version you're using. So even if you're actually using SQL Server Management Studio 2012 and running against a 2000 server, you can script it so it will work against a 2000 server. What you might find is if you are scripting like a create drop statement, it might use the SQL 2012 syntax, which actually won't work unless you're in the right version. Also, over the versions, they actually changed. In the early versions, they used to actually have an if exists, drop, create, whereas later versions just have the drop statement, which when you run it, works fine first time, but when you run it again, obviously the table doesn't exist, so it would error. Just one to be aware of. The other ones that don't default set as true, to be aware of, if you're scripting things off, script indexes is set as false, something you might want to note and change. If you're scripting tables, it won't bring the indexes through, as the same for triggers and statistics, etc. To do that.